Hey everyone, it's Trend Follower again this side, and we're back to do some back testing. It's that time of the week. This week just ended. Today it's Friday. And it's time to learn. It's time to back test. It's time to see what happened last week, how we did. Did the plan work as expected, or can we learn something from it? And I have few names on the list, and we'll go through them. And the idea of these videos, I have to reiterate, is not to just show, oh, this is how things could have worked, or regret, or be happy about what worked, but instead just to learn. I was watching some video yesterday, and there was a line that a good trader never stops learning. So yes, even me, I still always revisit these charts. It helps a lot. It also like points out the mistakes I did, uh, which during the week, of course, you feel bad about, but later on, it's like a journaling thing. Uh, and in this process, the good thing is you guys can learn with me, right? So that's the idea of these videos, just to see what happened last week, how we could have seen some things or how we missed some things and what we did great. Uh, so that's the idea of these videos. So let's go with the list. But before we go to the list, if you have seen my planning videos, I do something before every planning session, which is just to revisit what are the news for this week. And these were the news this week. And I mentioned that the most important news at the top would always be rate interest news, right? So there were three, I think. Most importantly, oh, I should reiterate, this is the week of December 16th. So most importantly, FOMC US Fed rate, one. Then there was JPY rate on Wednesday again. And then there was GBP, right? So your eye should be at least your list should have these three names in one way or the other. That's what my plan was. And I think things worked very well according to our plan, right? According to our priority order, right? So if you look at the planning session, it will all make sense. But right now, it's just about can we reiterate what happened? There were some things that I missed, and I was like, oh, this was easy, but I missed. So I have to go through those. So let's keep that in mind, this background in mind, that the most important things would be the GBP, USD, and JPY. So that would be the most important thing, right? So the next second thing is before the week started, what were the most strong currencies and weak currencies, right? And I hope you know this. It was shared in the planning session also. I have this tool which tells me that, but you really don't always need tool. This has like a lot of AI stuff, data inserted. But what you really need to see is in your back of your mind, you should always keep in mind what are the strong and weak currencies. And if you have been following Forex markets, you would know what are the strong and weak currencies last week. In this scenario, what was happening almost 2, 3 weeks back, we saw odd Australian dollar was the weak one, which means Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar would be the weak ones. JPY was the strong ones. That was on weekly chart, and weekly chart doesn't change very often, right? It takes weeks, right? So this was the first thing on my mind, and the second thing on my mind was uh, the CHF currencies. I don't think it shows it's okay, yeah. So last before the week started, remember this was December 15th week, right? Uh so basically just before that we saw Australian dollar strength, not much, but CHF was really nice, 85%, right? So CHF was really good. And then on other side of strength was euro when the week started, right? So in my mind, I was focusing on Australian dollar weakness, New Zealand dollar weakness, JPY strength on weekly, and then on weekly, right? But then last week I also remember that JPY also started acting weak. So JPY was a little confusing. We'll not go into that so much. But on weekly it was showing strength. I was giving more importance to JPY being strong. And sorry, JPY can be weak in the short term because on daily it was showing weakness, but in the long term, I still feel JPY can show strength. That was the idea in my mind. But because I got a daily signal of JPY, there were some doubts there. But anyway, so the main point was currency strength. Weakness, which is clear, was Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. Strength was Euro and GBP, right? And now the next step was let's go with our plan trades, right? So keeping that in mind, CHF showed weakness, right? And GBP had strength. So what will we think about GBP CHF? We'll think about long. So the idea was to go long in this area. If you look at my planning session, it was right here. So this really worked out perfectly because the I try the preferred version, which is this one here. So if you would have entered let's say here or above somewhere, depending on your price action on lower time frame action, you at least got 5 RR. Now, I'm not saying you got 5 RR, you could have gotten 3 RR, 2 RR, but when there are these big moves which you are able to capture, then taking 3 RR or 2 RR makes sense. For me, the target mostly is 2 RR. Now, why was this a quality trade, right? One is this demand area was very good. Why is that, right? So this area was aligning perfectly well with weekly high. So if you see, this is the weekly high, right? So I think that was the reason this was really good. There was a nice daily demand. There was a weekly high. Now, in terms of liquidity, there was equal high here, right? So that's why this was a beautiful trade. Now, one other thing to notice was I definitely mentioned this that I will take my 2 RR and get out because of exactly this, right? So I if you have to really think about this motion, you have to see how it comes back and holds here, right? So I wasn't planning on that because consolidation. And then it came down from here. So most probably it can go down here. If it goes here, that's fine, but I didn't want to predict that, right? So GBP CHF worked perfectly according to our plan. 2 RR, 3 RR capture, right? Let's go with the other one would be EURJPY, which was again our plan. This worked to the T, right? So the idea according to the plan was this area. So let's go why this area was important. So if you see there's this daily demand that formed here, right? Now you have it held for it was above it for 2 3 days. It came down. Not only that, right? So let me delete this one. And this was the daily demand, right? So if you see the weekly, I mentioned it for ICT traders. There's this inverse fair value gap here, right? Here. So there was that, and then on demand, this monthly level was right here. So if it had to, like, for example, let's say this was weak, right? So let's say this was weak, and there's this monthly level here. What should have happened? It should have just gone in and came out. But what had really happened while going above this monthly level, instead of falling through, it just bounced, right? And then when it came back here, that means most probably this is being used as support. So whereas this should have clearly just gone like this and down here if it was bearish, right? So this worked perfectly. Again, great trade. I think I personally captured 3 RR and I was done for the week. Now let's look at NZDJPY. In our previous planning videos, I think it was last to last week. I mentioned how this area is very interesting, this particular supply area. Why is it interesting? Because it is just below, it was just below this weekly high, this one, and then previous week high was also right here, right? So you have a lot of confluence here. I don't know what will happen here, but my idea was it can go down. I don't know if it would have made a lower low, but I thought it can come from here. That was the idea. I didn't play it because I was almost done. I was drained. I was done for the week. But if you look at our previous plan videos, we talked about it, right? So we try to find a lot of confluences in these areas to find good zones. And if we can attach that with our strength and news, that's awesome, right? So you remember odd JP, odd and NZD were the weakest currencies. So most probably, if you want to become, if you think, oh no, JPY can act strong, you have to let this zone pass. So it should come here, come back down, and something like that. But till the time this zone holds, you can be like, oh, I think New Zealand, NZDJPY will go down from here. So because you know in terms of strength, NZD odd is acting the weakest, right? That's when you can hold this. And that's when you can say this zone will hold. Now, let me show you a few examples here. This was not on the list, but like let's say EURJPY, right? The same zone is right here, right? That same zone, same zone. Did it go like this? No. Let's go GBPJPY, right? Same zone right here. Did it go like this? No. Let's go USDJPY. Okay. Did it go down? No. I mean, just once, right? But not like again full-fledged, right? Why all this is happening with USDJPY, EURJPY, and all that, but not NZDJPY? Because NZD, Australian dollar, were the weakest currencies. So that's why the reason I'm showing this or bringing this point back is to show how important it is to know which currencies have been acting strong or weak just to increase your probability. Like what I also want to say is, let's say this would have been broken, it would still have made this move and then gone here, most probably because it has been the weak currencies. So I don't want to go more into odd JPY as such, because it's the same as NZD JPY. Why I like this one was I think yeah. So if you see this block. This one, right? Is this one? No. Okay, so yeah, this one. So this blue line was, so this month is done. We are in this month. So this line is the previous month low, previous to previous month low, right? So if it's really bearish, it should react from here. What do we have that at that monthly level? This supply. Is Australian dollar and ZD dollar acting weak? Yes. So all these reasons, this area and this area were really, really good zones. And what happened? You got a straight rejection, right? So that's perfect. You got a straight rejection. Now let's talk about GBP odd. I don't think it was in last week's plan session, but it was a week back where I said this area has lot of confluence, so it should bounce. And I grabbed this, took my profit, and went. The reason I'm bringing this back is because you know Australian dollar is weak on weekly, right? Time frame, and it's really weak. You can play this again, right? So on daily, this is the zone, so you can use that. On 12 hour, this is a perfect zone, right? So clearly it went above, right? So this was the trade here. Again, strength week and GBP had news this week, right? So those combinations are perfect for a good trade. So this was the reason this, I think, worked. I didn't take it because I typically try to just take fresh zones, but I could have taken this. And I think part of me is realizing that when to take something which is not fresh. And feel like I've seen this many times, many times. And now it's like ingrained in my system to pull trigger even on non-fresh zones. But there are particular rules that I follow for it to be to take a trade in a zone which is not fresh. So that is my point. Like in this case, for me, this was not fresh, and I didn't pull the trigger because I was honestly done for the week. But I have few rules which would indicate that even if the zone is not fresh, you can take it, right? In this case, the reason I think we could have taken it is because clearly Australian, you are against a very weak currencies, and GBP was acting strong. Euro was acting strong, right? So this was the next trade that I wanted to share. Now, this I definitely want to share in terms of how sometimes it's easier to see things when you are aligned with the market, when you understand the trend, the zones, and the news, and why news is very important, right? So, first of all, let me show you the weekly time frame, right? So, uh, Euro CHF, this zone is I mentioned it in the planning video that I expected to come here. I was expecting if it pulls back, I can go get in, but it didn't. So I was expecting this area. When I went into that zone later, I saw this is a daily chart, right? So there's this daily supply, but this is not clean. Why is this not clean? Right? Look at all this choppiness. So this is not that clean. You cannot judge things just by the cover, yeah, right? So you have to go internally and then you see, oh, there's this nice rejection here, there's this gap. So maybe this can work, right? I'm not saying you could have taken this trade or not, but this down move, like with such strength, gave you a hint. What's the hint? If Euro CHF is going that fast down, can GBPCHF do that too? So let's go to GBPCHF and let's forget about this. Let's not think about this. But with just one thought, can GBPCHF do that too? Right? So when you see on GBPCHF, I found such a clean supply. Why is it clean? Right? Look how it fell directly from here. Look how there's consolidation below. And now you have tested this, right? Super clean supply. So what do you see here? You see a 4 hour supply here, right? And now, which formed inside this daily candle, which this overlaps with this daily supply, right? So wherever you enter, you can put a stop loss above this or above this, depending on your technical expertise. But this was the zone. And now what you get here is on news, you clearly went down, right? If you still want more confidence, you can even look at 1 hour. Again, small supply formed here, how it got respected, right? This is a little bit on hindsight, but what I'm trying to say is when a particular name related currencies gives you a signal, you can use that in your favor, right? So when I saw such clean signal, I didn't take this one because, as I said, I was done for the week. And this was not in my planning video at all. This zone was marked in my chart, but I don't think it was in the planning video at all. Uh, Sorry, I should say it wasn't, right? So when it's not in the planning video, I've stopped taking those trades because that means like I'm just trading with the market flowing throughout the week, which can be manipulative sometimes. So I was avoiding that. But I wanted to show how you could have traded it. I think this would be one of the first few charts this week for the next week plan. Anyway, so the point here is Euro CHF gave you the hint. Even if you look at AUD CHF, NZD CHF, right, those gave you the hint, like it's clearly falling. So I think that was my idea that every CHF name except USD CHF because it's damn strong is falling. And I said USD CHF will only like all the USD currencies will wait for FOMC. So I never looked into those, but all of those are falling. So maybe GBP CHF can start falling too, because that means CHF is really showing legit strength. Uh, this also makes me sad because I had this zone marked. It's in one of these videos of last to last week that this zone is important to me and I will wait for price to come here. What I forgot was putting an alert here first, but also I was thinking about this zone. If it could come there, it never came there and just got rejected. That's the strength of knowing the currency strength. NZD CHF just went down just by touching this supply zone, right? When you know what are weak and strong currencies, that's what happens. So yeah, so that's why I wanted to point out like how you can use other currencies to increase your probability if everything is falling on CHF, right? Which means CHF has legit strength. So this can also fall down. The only reason it's not is it's waiting for the news. Of course, it can go up like, but it's all about probability. Now, the na last trade I wanted to share was the futures trade. I missed one particular area in this. I think if I remember correctly, I was focusing on my plan. This zone, I think, and this zone. Uh, and I'm so sorry I missed this one in the planning video. Uh, but when I looked at the weekly chart, weekly demand was right here, right? So I was like, okay, this is good. This may come till here. But then for me, I thought this inside this weekly, I couldn't find anything clean. So I ignored this one. Then I went to ES. This had cleaner setup because here there's this weekly demand coming from here, I should say, right? So weekly was here, and then you can consider this one, but this has been pure again fully tested. But look at the daily. The daily is cleaner here, right? So this was much more cleaner setup. Uh, so this was yes, but this happened on Friday, and I try avoiding trading on Friday. We'll look at it again on Monday. But the next thing, when ES and NQ showed this setup, I went to YM and this was damn clean. And I will show you why this was damn clean. So firstly, let's go to weekly. Look at this demand. Look at this weekly demand. Look at the beauty of it. Why is this so beautiful, right? This is very beautiful because one doji, one consolidation candle, and boom, right? So this is a great demand. This matches with this equal highs here, so you can find this line here, right? So this was a great demand, but again, this whole move happened on Friday. So I think we'll revisit this on Monday. But within this, again, there's this demand, right? And now let me show you one more beauty. Look at this monthly chart. There's this block here, potential order block here. So I think it's possible that we may continue. If this zone holds, I'm bullish till this zone holds on YM. So yeah, these are some of the charts I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you learned something. At least I learned a lot. I hope these videos help. I always plan to continue. I always plan, I really am planning to continue these videos because I feel like it teaches me a lot. It revises all my points. It helps you to see how I'm just trading with few concepts, which is primarily supply and demand and finding confluence using support resistance, plus news, plus currency strength. Some basic concepts, and we continue from that, right? So that's my idea of trading. That's my video here. I hope this helps. Please feel to like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm always open for feedback. I will try improving. Please participate and let's continue learning. Thanks, guys.